Have you ever
Balanced
wondered why
nutrition
we are
is
the most
key. Check the
health-obsessed
labels.
generation
And
in
weigh yourself
history,
regularly.
It's
yet
that.
simultaneously
On the left, the ideal
sickest
state of
and most
vitality and health.
overweight?
Metabolic
It's
health
not
is
because
complex
you're
and regulated
lazy
by
or
internal
lack
signaling.
willpower. The brutal truth is that almost every nutritional rule you were taught growing up is a massive brainwashing campaign flawlessly disguised as science.
Funding
From
often
Big
leads to an
Sugar
observed correlation,
quietly
like
bribing
sugar,
Harvard
but this may be
researchers
incorrectly attributed,
to blame
such as to butter and
dietary
heart
fat,
health.
to giant processed food corporations rewriting the definition of an
The body
ideal
begins its
breakfast
journey of
just to sell
digestion.
more boxes of
Nutrients
cereal.
flow through the
You've been
digestive
played.
tract.
For over half a century, the multi-trillion-dollar food industry and its lobbyists have turned your body into a bottomless ATM. They don't want you healthy. They want you confused, perpetually hungry, and constantly emptying your wallet for their low-fat, sugar-free garbage. I am 42 by Matinee M, and today I am going to rip away that curtain of deception to expose every single lie. 1. You've always believed that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. You've been told that you must eat the moment you wake up to jumpstart your metabolism and prevent your body from storing fat. From pediatricians and elementary school textbooks to your own mother, everyone has repeated this mantra for decades. The truth is, forcing yourself to eat breakfast when you aren't hungry provides absolutely zero magical metabolic benefits. Modern science on intermittent fasting proves your body is perfectly stable and actually burns fat better if you extend your overnight fast. The human stomach doesn't have an alarm clock, and there is no medical evidence that skipping breakfast slows your metabolic rate. In fact, fasting lowers insulin and triggers autophagy, clearing out cellular garbage. This myth was birthed in 1944 by the General Foods Corporation. To sell more cereal, they launched a massive marketing campaign called Eat a Good Breakfast, Do a Better Job, paying health experts to promote this message on grocery store flyers. Turns out, the most important meal of the day was just the 20th century's greatest sales pitch to trick you into buying sugar-coated flakes. 2. You've definitely heard that eating carrots will give you perfect eyesight. You believe that crunching on these orange vegetables daily will give you owl-like night vision and keep you out of glasses. Parents and kindergarten teachers have used this tactic for generations to force kids to clean their plates. Actually, unless you are severely malnourished, stuffing yourself with carrots won't upgrade your vision to superhuman levels. Carrots are high in beta-carotene, a precursor to vitamin A, which is good for overall eye health. However, once your body has enough vitamin A, the excess doesn't convert into supersight. It just gets stored under your skin, which can literally turn you orange. This fable was actually a top-secret propaganda campaign by the British government during World War II. When the Royal Air Force invented radar technology to shoot down German planes at night, they fed the press a lie about their pilots eating massive amounts of carrots to hide the radar tech from German spies. So, you spent your entire childhood chewing on roots because of a 1940s British military cover-up. 3. You are absolutely convinced that saturated fat from butter and red meat clogs your arteries. You believe you must replace them with vegetable oils to avoid dropping dead from a heart attack. The American Heart Association, the World Health Organization, and millions of cardiologists turned this into the biggest health dogma of the last 50 years. The reality is that natural saturated fats do not cause heart disease. Sugar and systemic inflammation are the real killers. Massive meta-analyses have recently reviewed decades of data and found zero clear link between saturated fat consumption and cardiovascular risk. Dietary cholesterol has a negligible impact on your blood cholesterol, and it's actually the vascular inflammation from refined sugars and industrial seed oils that causes arterial plaque to form. This scam originated from physiologist Ansel Keys, 7 countries study. In the 1950s, he intentionally cherry-picked data from 7 countries that supported his hypothesis while hiding data from 15 others, like France, where they ate lots of butter but had low heart disease, to force the world to fear fat. Millions of people traded delicious butter for toxic, trans-fat-laden margarine, all because one scientist liked to cook his data. 4. You've been taught that you must drink exactly 8 glasses, about 2 liters, of water a day to flush out toxins. You believe that if you aren't hauling around a giant, time-marked water jug, you are chronically dehydrated. Fitness influencers, beauty magazines, and the bottled water industry have drilled this number into our heads daily. The truth is, the 8 glasses rule was completely fabricated, and your body already has a flawless alarm system called thirst. Water needs fluctuate wildly based on your weight, the climate, and your activity level. Plus, you get about 20% of your hydration from food like fruit, and even from coffee or tea. The human kidneys are sophisticated filtration machines. Forcing them to overwork by chugging water when you aren't thirsty can lead to hyponatremia, a potentially fatal water intoxication. This recommendation stems from a 1945 Food and Nutrition Board report stating humans need about 2.5 liters of water daily. The media completely ignored the very next sentence. Most of this quantity is contained in prepared foods. You are not a houseplant on a watering schedule. Put the gallon jug down and just drink when you're thirsty. 5. You still firmly believe that all calories are created equal. You think that as long as you burn more calories than you consume, you will lose weight, regardless of whether you're eating chicken breast or drinking a soda. The processed food industry, calorie-counting apps, and thousands of old-school dietitians still preach this dry mathematical equation. The harsh reality is, your body is not a trash incinerator. It reacts to calories from sugar completely differently than calories from protein. Calories from sugar and refined carbs spike your insulin, commanding your body to lock its fat cells and store energy. Conversely, protein takes more energy to digest and keeps you full longer, while sugar wrecks your gut microbiome and scrambles your brain's satiety signals, making you chronically hungry even after eating 1,000 calories. The all calories are equal myth was heavily funded by beverage giants like Coca-Cola, who poured millions into health organizations to brainwash the public into thinking there are no bad foods, only a lack of exercise. Counting calories without looking at food quality is like putting diluted lawnmower gas into a Ferrari and expecting it to win a race just because the tank is full. 6. You are convinced that MSG, monosodium glutamate, is a toxic chemical that causes headaches, numbness, and memory loss. You always ask restaurants for no MSG because you think it's a cheap synthetic poison. Housewives, restaurant window signs, and a slew of health warning articles in the late 20th century turned it into public enemy number 1. In reality, MSG is one of the safest natural ingredients on the planet, and your body literally cannot distinguish it from nature. MSG is simply the sodium salt of glutamic acid, an incredibly common amino acid found heavily in tomatoes, mushrooms, and Parmesan cheese. Thousands of double-blind studies by the FDA and WHO have failed to find any evidence that MSG causes harm at normal doses. This panic exploded in 1968 when a doctor named Robert Ho Man Kwok wrote an open letter to a medical journal complaining of headaches after eating Chinese food, inventing Chinese restaurant syndrome. The outrage was actually fueled by xenophobia and racism toward Asian immigrants in America, not science. Turns out, we demonized a magical flavor-enhancing ingredient for decades over a slightly racist complaint letter. 7. You've been warned that eating anything after 8 p.m. will instantly turn into belly fat. You believe your digestive system goes to sleep at night, locking that food under your skin forever. Online personal trainers, lifestyle magazines, and beauty blogs use this dining curfew to terrorize you. Actually, food cannot tell time, and your body continues to burn calories even while you are snoring. Weight gain happens when you consume more total calories than you burn over a 24-hour period, regardless of whether you swallow that food at 7:59 p.m. or 8:01 p.m. The only real benefit of a nighttime eating cutoff is that it stops you from mindlessly shoving junk food into your mouth while binge-watching Netflix. This idea stems from a misinterpretation of 1990s observational studies on night shift workers, who frequently suffered from obesity. Researchers initially blamed the time of eating, but later realized the real culprits were disrupted circadian rhythms and the fact that the only food available at 3 a.m. was low-quality fast food. So if you're genuinely hungry at 9 p.m., go ahead and eat. Your stomach doesn't clock out for the day. 8. You've always thought egg yolks are cholesterol bombs that will directly clog your veins. You were taught to only eat egg whites to get the protein without paying the price of a heart attack. Throughout the 80s and 90s, the medical establishment, bodybuilders, and the media collectively turned the egg yolk into a cardiovascular ticking time bomb. Modern science has proven that eating whole eggs actually improves your blood lipid profile rather than wrecking it. Clinical studies show dietary cholesterol has almost zero impact on blood cholesterol for 70% of the population. And for the other 30%, it raises both good and bad cholesterol equally, keeping your risk ratio identical. Egg yolks are actually nature's perfect multivitamin, packed with choline for your brain and lutein for your eyes. This fear was a side effect of Ansel Keys' disastrous low-fat hypothesis. The artificial food industry immediately capitalized on it, launching expensive, chemical-filled liquid egg substitutes while smearing the cheap natural egg. Ultimately, throwing away the nutrient-dense yolk just to eat the flavorless white is a culinary crime and a massive waste of money. 9. You absolutely trust that cow's milk is a mandatory beverage for building strong bones and preventing osteoporosis. You think if you don't chug milk daily, your skeleton will turn to sponge. School lunch programs, billions of posters featuring celebrities with milk mustaches, and dietitians brainwashed every child with this belief. The brutal truth is that consuming cow's milk does not reduce the risk of bone fractures. And paradoxically, countries that drink the most milk have the highest rates of osteoporosis. The human body requires vitamin D, magnesium, and vitamin K2 to actually absorb calcium into bones, and you can get much higher quality, easily absorbed calcium from dark leafy greens or small bone in fish. Plus, up to 65% of the global population is lactose intolerant. We simply weren't designed to digest another animal's nursing fluid. This myth was inflated by the USDA, an organization with a massive conflict of interest. They are tasked with providing dietary advice while simultaneously promoting dairy sales to save farmers. The historic Got Milk campaign was just a desperate multi-million-dollar government bailout for an overproducing dairy industry. You aren't a baby calf. You don't need cow's milk to grow a skeleton. 10. You've been warned that artificial sweeteners like aspartame in diet sodas will give you cancer, brain tumors, and fry your nervous system. You figure it's better to drink real sugar than that deadly lab chemical. Health rumor websites, crunchy natural moms, and countless email chain letters from the early 2000s burned this fear into the public consciousness. The truth is, Aspartame is one of the most rigorously tested food additives in human history, and it is completely safe at normal doses. Hundreds of independent studies from the FDA and the European Food Safety Authority have repeatedly confirmed it does not cause cancer in humans. To reach the toxicity levels seen in lab rats, a normal human would have to drink 20 to 30 diet sodas a day, every day, for decades, while the deadly effects of real sugar on obesity and diabetes are proven facts. This panic originated from a deeply flawed 1990s study by the Ramazzini Institute in Italy, where rats were force-fed biologically impossible doses. Though the scientific community tore the methodology to shreds, the media ran with the cancer chemical headlines for clicks. Look, diet soda isn't a magical health elixir, but refusing it out of cancer fears just to chug a sugar-loaded frappuccino is a total joke. 11. You've always believed that you must walk exactly 10,000 steps a day to achieve optimal health. You view any number below that as a sign of a lazy, sedentary lifestyle. Apple Watches, phone health apps, and the entirety of corporate wellness culture treat this number as the gold standard. Actually, 10,000 steps is just a random marketing gimmick pulled out of thin air with zero physiological basis. Real scientific research shows that health and longevity benefits spike at around 4,400 steps a day and plateau around 7,500 steps. Walking beyond this number provides no statistically significant drop in mortality rates. The origin of this holy number goes back to 1965 in Japan. A company called Yamasa Tokei Keiki designed a pedometer called the Manpo-Kei, literally 10,000 step meter. Why 10,000? Simply because the Japanese character for 10,000 metorkider looks like a little man walking, making it a perfect marketing logo. Turns out, you bought a $500 smartwatch just to obey a 1960s Japanese gadget advertisement. 12. You still think the body mass index, BMI, is the most scientifically accurate measure of whether you're overweight. You panic when your BMI crosses 25 and assume you need to diet immediately. Health insurance companies, general practitioners, and the entire public health system still use it to hand down a verdict on your health. In reality, BMI is a useless, blind mathematical formula that completely fails to distinguish between muscle mass and actual body fat. The formula just divides your weight by your height squared. Thousands of professional bodybuilders and athletes are classified as obese on the BMI chart simply because their muscle is heavy. Conversely, a skinny person with organs wrapped in dangerous visceral fat is praised by BMI as perfectly healthy. This index was invented in the 1830s by Lambert Adolphe Jacques Quetelet, a Belgian mathematician with zero medical background. Over a century later, American life insurance companies dug the formula up because it was the cheapest, fastest way to categorize clients and charge overweight people higher premiums. Modern doctors are still judging your health using a 19th century math equation just because it makes hospital billing easier. 13. You are convinced you need to drink detox juices or weight loss teas to cleanse your liver and intestines. You believe your body is full of chemicals, and only a 7-day juice cleanse can fix it. Hollywood stars, Instagram influencers, and a multi-billion-dollar beauty industry survive on this belief. The truth is, unless you are suffering from drug poisoning or acute liver failure, the concept of a juice detox is pseudoscientific garbage. The human body comes pre-installed with the most sophisticated, free, 24/7 filtration system in the world: your liver and your 2 kidneys. Chugging celery juice does not assist this process. In fact, stripping away the fiber to drink sugar water only makes your liver work harder, while detox teas just contain laxatives that severely dehydrate you. The wellness industry deliberately hijacked the word detox, a legitimate medical term for treating addiction, to slap onto commercial products. By mongering fear about a vague, toxic world, they easily sell you bottled lemon water at a massive markup. Your liver would like to send a message. Stop buying expensive trash water and just let it do its job. 14. You were taught that alkaline water with a high pH will neutralize acid in your body, cure disease, and slow aging. You believe regular acidic tap water makes you sick. Multi-level marketing water filter reps, high-end yoga studios, and sponsored athletes spew this endlessly. Actually, nothing you eat or drink can, or will ever, change the pH of your blood. Your body strictly maintains blood pH between 7.35 and 7.45. The second you swallow expensive alkaline water, it hits your stomach, which is a highly acidic environment designed to dissolve food, and the alkalinity is instantly destroyed. The only thing that changes pH is your urine, not your cells. This myth is the brainchild of Robert O. Young, author of The pH Miracle, who convinced cancer patients to skip chemo and inject baking soda. In 2017, Young went to prison for fraud, but his alkaline water legacy lives on. You are paying a 1,000% markup just to change the color of a pH strip when you pee. 15. You assume organic food is inherently more nutritious and absolutely safer than conventionally grown produce. You view buying organic as the only way to avoid eating chemicals. High-end supermarkets, bright green labels, and modern anti-agriculture culture have convinced the middle class of this superiority. Science shows there is no significant difference in vitamin or mineral content between an organic apple and a conventional one. While organic food doesn't use synthetic pesticides, they still use naturally derived pesticides, which are sometimes more toxic to the environment than modern chemicals. The pesticide residue on conventional food is microscopic, hundreds of times lower than the threshold for human harm. The organic label started as an environmental movement in the 70s, but was swallowed by massive food conglomerates who lobbied for vague certifications just to tax consumer anxiety. If you buy organic to support local farmers, great, but don't lie to yourself that you're buying nutritional superpowers. 16. You believe a gluten-free diet is the key to curing all digestive issues and detoxifying the body. You think bread is secretly destroying your gut. Supermarket packaging, millions of posts from people without medical degrees, and healthy bakeries have brainwashed us with this fear. Unless you have celiac disease, which affects less than 1% of the population, cutting gluten from your diet is completely pointless and will probably make you fatter. Gluten is just a protein found in wheat that makes dough chewy. Normal people digest it effortlessly. Worse, processed gluten-free products are often pumped full of extra sugar, cornstarch, and fat to compensate for the terrible texture. The anti-gluten hysteria exploded in 2011 with the book Wheat Belly by a cardiologist who blamed wheat for all modern diseases without clinical trials. The food industry instantly turned a niche medical need into a $15 billion diet industry. You are giving up crusty sourdough bread because you listen to internet fearmongers who can't even spell the word protein. 17. You've heard gym bros claim that men who eat soy will become feminized, grow man boobs, and lose their sperm count due to massive amounts of estrogen. Fitness forums, YouTube alpha males, and locker room gossip treat soy as the ultimate enemy of testosterone. The harsh scientific reality is, soy does not give you man boobs or turn you into a woman, even if you eat it every day. Soy contains phytoestrogens, which are plant estrogens, entirely different from human mammalian estrogen. Phytoestrogens act as modulators and can actually block the effects of excess real estrogen. Dozens of meta-analyses confirm soy does not lower free testosterone in men. This bizarre myth spawned from two 2000s case studies involving men who consumed an insane, biologically unreasonable amount of soy, like 3 liters of soy milk a day. The dairy and meat industries immediately ignited this paranoia to crush vegan alternatives. Asian men have eaten tofu for thousands of years and still boast massive populations, yet you're terrified of a glass of soy milk. 18. You insist that microwaves completely destroy the nutritional structure of food, turning it into irradiated dead matter. You'd rather boil veggies on a stove for 30 minutes than use that little box? Natural living blogs and general technophobia have kept this blind belief alive. The truth is that microwaving is often one of the best ways to retain nutrients, especially water-soluble vitamin C. Any form of heating degrades vitamins. Microwaves work by exciting water molecules to generate instant heat. Because the cooking time is incredibly short and requires very little water, it prevents nutrients from leaching out into boiling water. Microwaves use non-ionizing radiation, meaning they absolutely cannot mutate DNA or make food radioactive. This fear stems from the Cold War in the 70s, when a lack of physics education led the public to equate microwaves with nuclear fallout. Traditional appliance companies also quietly spread the rumor to kneecap their new competitor. You are sweating over a stove boiling broccoli for 15 minutes to destroy its vitamins when you could microwave it for 2 minutes and keep everything. 19. You've been advised that brown sugar or natural honey is much healthier and less fattening than refined white sugar. You proudly drink your boba tea with unrefined brown sugar. Artisan bakeries and rustic brown packaging have tricked consumers' eyes into believing this. On a biochemical level, your body has absolutely no clue how to differentiate between brown sugar, honey, and white sugar. They all break down into the exact same blood glucose. Brown sugar is literally just refined white sugar, with a little bit of molasses thrown back in for color. The minerals in it are so microscopic, you'd have to eat a 50-pound bag to get the nutrients of one spinach leaf. When honey or brown sugar hits your blood, it spikes your insulin exactly like cheap white table sugar. The sugar industry was incredibly smart to exploit the 90s obsession with natural products. They slapped premium labels on raw brown sugar and charged double for the exact same deadly molecule. Stop patting yourself on the back for switching from white sugar boba to brown sugar boba. Your liver is screaming exactly the same way. 20. You believe agave nectar is the perfect superfood sugar alternative for diabetics because it has a low glycemic index, GI. The entire vegan movement and hipster coffee shops put this syrup on a pedestal of clean eating. The spectacular scam here is that agave syrup destroys your liver faster and worse than industrial high-fructose corn syrup. Agave's GI is low only because it contains up to 90% pure fructose. Regular sugar is 50%. Fructose doesn't immediately spike blood glucose, but it shoots straight to your liver, forcing it to work in overdrive to convert it to fat. Heavy agave consumption is an expressway to fatty liver disease. Agave was originally just a cheap commercial byproduct of the Mexican tequila industry. To clear out warehouses, American marketers bottled it, called it a natural sweetener from the Aztec cactus, and tricked health-obsessed buyers. You just paid $10 for a bottle of syrup that ruins your liver faster than a can of energy drink. 21. You assume that fresh produce from the farmer's market always contains more nutrients than frozen vegetables in the supermarket. You think frozen food is for lazy people? Traditional home cooks and housewives always side-eye the freezer aisle. Science proves the exact opposite. Frozen vegetables frequently retain significantly higher vitamin levels than the fresh stuff you buy. Frozen produce is harvested at peak ripeness and flash frozen within hours, locking in the nutritional structure. Meanwhile, fresh vegetables are picked green to survive transport, sit on trucks, and bake under supermarket lights for weeks, oxidizing and losing massive amounts of vitamin C. This misunderstanding stems from the primitive freezing tech of the 1950s that turned food to mush. Unless you are picking the fruit directly off a tree in your backyard and eating it instantly, march confidently straight to the freezer aisle. 22. You strongly believe that when kids have a cough or a cold, you must strictly ban milk because it produces phlegm. Old-school pediatricians and word-of-mouth mommy wisdom issue this warning every flu season. Actually, milk does not stimulate the body to produce a single drop of extra mucus. Clinical studies literally infected volunteers with cold viruses, gave them milk, and weighed their phlegm. The result? Zero difference. The sticky feeling in your throat after drinking milk is just because milk is an emulsion that coats the mucous membranes, creating a physical sensation similar to phlegm. This legend dates back to the 12th century, documented by Moses Maimonides, a medieval physician. Somehow, the medical guesses of a man from 800 years ago are still dictating modern parenting. Stop depriving a sick kid of the few liquid calories they're willing to drink over a physical throat illusion. 23. You believe that blasting your system with high-dose vitamin C effervescent tablets will cure a cold and create a viral force field. Local pharmacies and the pharma industry relentlessly push these orange tubes with inflated promises. In reality, for the average person, massive doses of vitamin C do not prevent colds. They just create the most expensive urine in the world. Your body only absorbs what it needs, instantly flushing the rest through your urinary tract. Over 29 clinical trials confirmed it might shorten a cold by a few hours, but it is absolutely not a viral miracle cure. This myth was birthed by Linus Pauling, a Nobel laureate. In the 70s, he became obsessed with vitamin C and wrote a book claiming it cured everything, despite 0 double-blind trials to back him up. You are overloading your kidneys with ascorbic acid just because a genius spoke recklessly outside his field of expertise. 24. You fear that if you eat too little, your body will enter starvation mode and hoard belly fat. You believe you must eat constantly to keep the metabolic fire burning. Fitness forums and women's magazines constantly use this concept to terrorize dieters. The truth is, starvation mode is a ridiculous scientific exaggeration. You cannot magically gain fat if you are in a true caloric deficit. Your body does have minor metabolic adaptations when you lose weight, but it will never stop breaking down fat for energy if it needs it. People who complain, "I eat nothing, but I'm still fat," are almost always miscalculating hidden calories from oils and mindless snacking. The origin of this fear is a massive misinterpretation of Ansel Keys' 1944 Minnesota starvation experiment. He starved young men for months, and guess what? Every single one of them became rail thin. Nobody hoarded fat. If the human body could violate the laws of thermodynamics by creating fat out of thin air, we would have solved world hunger a long time ago. 25. You were told by a trainer that eating 6 small meals a day will speed up your metabolism and make you lose weight faster than 3 big meals. The entire snack industry, whey protein manufacturers, and 90s gym culture swore by this strategy. In reality, meal frequency has 0 impact on the total energy your body burns. The thermic effect of food is directly proportional to the total calories you eat. Digesting 2,000 calories in 6 meals takes the exact same energy as digesting it in 2 meals. Even worse, eating 6 times a day keeps your insulin constantly spiked, halting fat burn and keeping you obsessed with food. This tactic was heavily funded by the supplement industry, especially protein bar companies. By convincing you that you'll get fat if you don't eat every 2 hours, they engineered mandatory consumption. Your body evolved to hunt every few days, not to nibble on granola bars every 2 hours like a guinea pig. 26. You believe you must chug a whey protein shake within 30 minutes of working out, or the anabolic window will close, and your entire workout is wasted. Sweaty guys sprinting to the locker room with their shaker bottles turned this rule into a religion. The truth is, this window stays wide open for up to 24 hours post-workout, and your muscles won't evaporate if you delay your protein. The total amount of protein you eat in a day is thousands of times more important than the exact minute you consume it. If you ate protein before your workout, those amino acids are still floating in your blood, ready to rebuild muscle. We have to applaud the brainwashing power of the $50 billion supplement industry. They funded small-scale studies to create fear of missing out, FOMO, forcing you to buy fast-acting whey powder instead of going home to eat a real meal. Your biceps don't have a ticking time bomb attached to them. Take a shower and just eat dinner. 27. You believe that doing 1,000 crunches a day will burn away your belly fat. You buy specialized workout programs to slim down your arms. Late-night ab machine infomercials and millions of TikTok videos monetize this naivety. The most brutal truth of fitness: spot reduction is physiologically impossible. The body breaks down triglycerides from your entire body to put into the bloodstream, not directly from the fat layer sitting on top of the muscle you are currently flexing. Where your body stores and loses fat is 100% dictated by genetics. This fraudulent theory was pushed heavily in the 80s by the makers of fitness gadgets like the ab roller. By targeting a customer's insecurity about one specific body part, they easily sold useless plastic machines. You can't scoop a bucket of water out of the deep end of a pool and expect only that corner to be empty. 28. You think wearing a sweatsuit, a trash bag, or wrapping your stomach in plastic wrap while running will sweat out the fat and make you skinny fast. Fighters cutting weight and people jogging in the summer heat torture themselves for this belief. Actually, sweat is 100% water and minerals. Not a single molecule of fat exits through your pores. Sweating is just your body's natural cooling mechanism. When you wrap yourself in plastic, you are just exhausting and severely dehydrating yourself. The scale might say you lost 2 kilos, but it is entirely water weight that returns the second you drink. Real fat is oxidized into CO2 and leaves your body through your breath. This misunderstanding comes from watching boxers severely cut water weight 24 hours before stepping on a scale. Companies selling neoprene waist trainers hijack this to scam consumers. Turning yourself into a steamed dumpling wrapped in plastic only puts you at risk of a heat stroke. 29. You strongly believe that sugar gives children a sugar high, making them hyperactive and uncontrollable. You strictly ban your kids from eating candy before bed. Parents globally and the sugar-free candy industry lean on this excuse. The shocking truth is, there is not a single credible scientific study proving that sugar causes hyperactivity in children. Dozens of double-blind, placebo-controlled studies have shown that kids given real sugar and kids given fake sugar behave exactly the same. What actually happens is a placebo effect in the parents. When you think your kid ate sugar, you scrutinize their behavior more harshly. Plus, kids eat sugar at parties. It's the excitement of the environment, not the candy, making them bounce off the walls. This myth was started by pediatrician William Crook in 1973 via a letter to a journal with zero clinical evidence. The media immediately engraved that fear into parents' brains. Kids are just naturally loud. Blaming the birthday cake is just how adults justify their inability to control them. 30. You believe that a glass of 100% pure fruit juice is the ultimate healthy morning gift to your body. Packaging showing fresh, dewy fruit and decades of TV commercials convinced you this is an irreplaceable vitamin source. The truth is, fruit juice, no matter how pure, is a liquid sugar bomb that wrecks your metabolism exactly like a can of soda. When you juice a fruit, you strip away its biological shield, the fiber. A glass of orange juice takes 4 to 5 oranges. You couldn't physically chew 5 oranges back to back because the fiber would make you violently full, but you can chug that massive hit of fructose in 10 seconds, completely overloading your liver. The campaign to drink your orange was the genius invention of ad man Albert Lasker in the 1920s to help California farmers liquidate a massive surplus of rotting oranges. You are paying $5 for a cold-pressed juice, but your body is just receiving the sugar equivalent of an orange-flavored Coca-Cola. 31. You assume that Himalayan pink salt or natural sea salt is vastly healthier than cheap refined table salt. High-end restaurant chefs and the holistic healing community worship this expensive rock. In reality, sodium is sodium. The trace minerals in pink salt are so infinitesimally small, they have zero physiological impact. To get a meaningful amount of trace minerals from pink salt, you would have to eat enough salt to give yourself heart failure from high blood pressure. Meanwhile, cheap table salt is fortified with iodine, a crucial mineral for your thyroid that pink salt completely lacks. This myth was manufactured by high-end culinary marketing, slapping a "pure from the Himalayas" label on a basic commodity to sell it at a 2,000% markup. You are throwing money out the window for pink sand that raises your blood pressure exactly the same way cheap salt does. 32. You believe that everyone needs to pop a multivitamin pill daily to fill nutritional gaps and live longer. Shiny pharmacy aisles and the health routines of concerned mothers made this a national morning ritual. Unless you have a specific, doctor-diagnosed deficiency, a daily multivitamin provides zero benefits for longevity or disease prevention. Massive clinical trials involving hundreds of thousands of people concluded that daily multivitamins do not reduce the risk of heart disease or cancer. Your body absorbs nutrients from whole foods exponentially better than isolated compounds inside a gelatin capsule. This obsession was heavily pushed in the 1930s by pharmaceutical companies. They successfully pathologized a normal diet, making people terrified they were constantly deficient in something. Congratulations, you are funding the pharma industry just to pee out expensive neon yellow water. 33. You automatically assume that if a package says low-fat or fat-free, it is a fantastic diet food that will help you get skinny. Throughout the 90s, supermarket shelves were flooded with blue, low-fat stickers, and we bought them without blinking. The brutal truth, low-fat is usually the food industry's code word for pumped full of sugar and chemical thickeners. Fat is what gives food flavor and texture. When companies suck the fat out, the food tastes like wet cardboard. To make you chew it, they dump in massive amounts of corn syrup and refined sugar. Consequently, low-fat foods spike your insulin way harder than the original versions. This trend was a direct result of the flawed 1980s U.S. government dietary guidelines aimed at eliminating animal fats. You voluntarily traded satiating saturated fats for a sugar rush that leaves you starving an hour later. 34. You've been warned that carbohydrates, carbs, are the direct culprit making you fat. And to lose weight, you must strictly cut out rice and potatoes. Devotees of keto, Atkins, and countless celebrities flaunting tiny waists turned carbs into a terrifying phantom. Actually, carbohydrates themselves cannot make you fat. Only a chronic surplus of total calories turns into body fat. Whole food carbs like boiled potatoes or oats have an incredibly high satiety index. What actually makes you fat isn't the potato, but the massive amounts of butter and frying oil you mash into it. Refined carbs, like pastries, make you fat because they are delicious and lack fiber, causing you to overeat, not because of their molecular nature. This prejudice is a trick used by diet book authors. To sell a new system every decade, they have to pick one macronutrient to be the ultimate scapegoat. Billions of Asian people have eaten rice every single day for centuries while staying exceptionally lean. Yet you choose to blame the potato. 35. You've heard the rumor that red meat takes up to 7 years to digest and rots inside your colon. Extremist documentaries from the vegan movement frequently use this horror imagery to terrify viewers. The truth is, your digestive system completely breaks down and absorbs meat long before it ever touches your large intestine. The human stomach is a vat of highly acidic hydrochloric acid and efficient protein-dissolving enzymes. Meat is digested and absorbed as amino acids in the small intestine. Ironically, the thing that actually ferments, or rots, if you want to use a negative word, in your colon is plant fiber, which is an incredibly healthy microbiological process. This horror myth stems from the early 20th century anti-meat puritanism of John Harvey Kellogg, who wanted to suppress human carnal desires. Your stomach is a ruthless biological reactor for breaking down meat, not a plastic Tupperware container of forgotten leftovers. 36. You absolutely believe that coconut oil is a miracle superfood that cures diseases and is the healthiest oil on the planet. Paleo dieters and holistic lifestyle blogs tell you to put coconut oil in everything, from your frying pan to your morning coffee. The scam here is that coconut oil contains up to 82% saturated fat, far higher than butter or lard, and it spikes your bad LDL cholesterol through the roof. While it does contain some medium-chain triglycerides, MCTs, that have minor energy benefits, the vast majority of its composition offers zero cardiovascular miracles. Global heart associations universally warn against its unregulated use. The coconut oil craze was the result of a massive PR campaign in the 2000s funded by the Coconut Industry Board to rebrand a cheap tropical oil into a magical elixir. It is fantastic for moisturizing your hair, but please stop scooping it into your coffee like a potion for immortality. 37. You still think that anxiety, work stress, and eating too much spicy food will burn a hole in your stomach and cause ulcers. 1980s TV shows featuring businessmen clutching their stomachs, combined with family doctor warnings, created this belief. In reality, stress does not cause stomach ulcers. The culprit is a tiny bacteria. Almost all stomach ulcers are caused by an infection of Helicobacter pylori, H. pylori, or the overuse of NSAID painkillers. Stress only exacerbates the pain symptoms. It doesn't create the wound. You can cure this disease permanently with simple antibiotics. The medical establishment arrogantly clung to the stress hypothesis for decades, until 1982, when Dr. Barry Marshall got so frustrated that he literally drank a beaker full of H. pylori to prove it caused ulcers. And he won a Nobel Prize for it. You ate bland food for years because doctors were too stubborn to admit a microscopic bug had outsmarted them. 38. You believe that endorphins are the magical chemicals that create the runner's high after a long jog. Running magazines and pop psychology always praise endorphins as the biological reward for your hard work. The truth is, endorphins are massive molecules that are physically too large to cross the blood-brain barrier. The thing actually getting you high is your internal cannabis system. When you run intensely for long periods, your body releases endocannabinoids, specifically anandamide, tiny molecules that easily enter the brain. They bind to the exact same receptors that THC in marijuana targets, reducing pain and creating a euphoric buzz. This mix-up happened in the 80s when scientists found elevated endorphins in the blood after running, and just blindly assumed they went straight into the brain without checking the biological barrier. You aren't getting a rush from a pain-killing hormone. Your body is actually brewing its own internal version of THC. 39. You think raw, unpasteurized milk is a magical, natural remedy that cures allergies and asthma. Biohackers and raw food fanatics are paying exorbitant prices to illegally buy milk straight from a cow's udder. The truth is, heat pasteurization does not destroy the nutrients in milk. It simply stops you from dying of tuberculosis and E. coli. The tiny amount of enzymes and antibodies in raw milk are instantly obliterated by your stomach acid anyway, offering zero magical immune benefits. Meanwhile, the risk of salmonella and listeria from cow feces slipping into raw milk is astronomically high and can cause acute kidney failure. This movement is a blind romanticization of the past by people who believe anything industrial must be toxic. Drinking unpasteurized milk isn't a biological upgrade. It's just playing Russian roulette with your gastrointestinal tract. 40. You believe that if you force yourself to eat less for a while, your stomach will physically shrink, making you feel full faster naturally. Diet culture legends always frame this as the ultimate reward for days of starvation. Your stomach is a highly elastic organ. It expands when food enters and deflates back to its original baseline size when digestion is done, but it never permanently shrinks. What actually changes are your appetite hormones, ghrelin and leptin, and how your brain regulates satiety signals. When you eat less, your endocrine system adapts, making you satisfied with less food. However, the physical volume of your stomach organ remains identical unless you surgically cut it out. This myth comes from early dietitians using metaphorical, visual language to explain hunger, which the public took literally. Your stomach is a biological balloon that inflates and deflates, not a wool sweater that permanently shrinks in the hot wash. 41. You grew up with a firm belief in the food pyramid, where the massive bottom tier told you to eat 6 to 11 servings of bread, cereal, and pasta every single day. This graphic was printed on cereal boxes, hung in school nurse offices, and dictated the eating habits of an entire generation. The brutal truth is, the 1992 food pyramid was entirely redrawn by agricultural lobbyists to liquidate a massive surplus of wheat. Originally, top nutrition experts designed the base of the pyramid to be fresh vegetables and fruits. However, the USDA, under intense pressure from the grain industry, forced them to flip the design, placing refined carbohydrates as the absolute foundation of a healthy diet. This stands as one of the most blatant interventions of corporate interests into public health policy in modern history. We engineered an entire generation to battle an obesity and diabetes epidemic just because the government needed to clear out warehouses for pasta conglomerates. 42. You still firmly believe that eating too much candy is the direct and sole cause of type 2 diabetes. Nagging relatives and superficial public warnings engraved this straight-line connection in your mind. The final revelation: type 2 diabetes is caused by insulin resistance, and the root cause of insulin resistance is the overall accumulation of body fat from a chronic calorie surplus, not just the sugar crystal itself. Intracellular fat accumulation, lipotoxicity, physically jams your body's insulin receptors. Yes, Liquid sugar is addictive and makes you rapidly overconsume calories, leading to obesity. But if you ate a chocolate bar while in a strict calorie deficit, with no excess visceral fat, that sugar wouldn't magically morph into diabetes. This myth stems from a misunderstanding of the disease's name, blood sugar, and directly equating it to the food ingredient of the same name. Stop blaming the occasional donut you eat, when the real culprit is a lifestyle of invisible, chronic fat accumulation over decades. We are living in a world where the convenience of the food industry has completely eclipsed public health. These myths weren't born by accident. They are meticulously engineered products of billion-dollar corporations, funded by manipulated research and implanted into pop culture through relentless advertising. This system was built to control you, making you shop out of fear and false hope. But now, you hold the truth. I am 42 secrets, and knowledge is the only weapon you have to protect yourself and your family from this mess. If you were a victim of any of these lies, don't blame yourself. An entire generation was tricked. Have you heard of another wild food myth I didn't cover? Drop it in the comments below so we can tear it apart together. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to remain the smartest person at the dinner table. Living healthy isn't hard once you stop taking advice from the people trying to sell you something.